Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to the screening of The Wind. It was one of my very first big New York experiences when I came in as a student, seeing the film with Lillian Gish at Radio Music Hall. And I had a super cheap ticket, so she was this small down there, but she was Lillian Gish. So I'm told what you're seeing here is a much better version of what I saw at the time. And here to introduce the film is MoMA's curator, Dave Kehr.
Thank you. Oh, it's so nice to see a good crowd for a silent movie on a Saturday afternoon, and thanks so much for turning out here. It's often been said that silent films reach their artistic pinnacle pretty much at the moment they died, and this is a classic example of that. This film was made in 1927, which is the last year of full silent films, filmed as a silent, and then released in 1928 with what they were calling a Metrotone soundtrack, which was music and sound effects, little snatches of dialogue here and there, but still a relatively crude process. This was sound on disc. You've probably seen the Vitaphone discs, big 16-inch black records. Fidelity is not great, but we were able to locate all of the original discs and re-record them and clean them up somewhat for this. This print comes from Lillian Gish herself, who left a lot of her material to MoMA, including a film preservation fund. So we actually used Lillian's money to preserve Lillian's print of Lillian's film. It's a very special film in the sense that it kind of covers the entire history of silent film. Lillian Gish, of course, was a member of D.W. Griffith's stock company, started in movies in 1909, and worked with Griffith as American film really became a narrative medium. He was the first real artist in film and created, psychologically complex characters, working, very closely with his actors. She always called him Mr. Griffith, and he always called her Miss Lillian, which is how we all think of her to this day. The director is Victor Sjöström, who was a pioneer in Sweden, starting around 1915 to make films. And his great contribution was kind of bringing the outside in. He's a great landscape artist, as you will also see in this film. They were very much creatures of silent film, and both of them made a couple of sound pictures and just didn't like it very much. Lillian went back to Broadway, where she remained a star through the 40s and 50s, and came back to Hollywood in the 1950s to make a few films, among them Night of the Hunter, which you've probably seen, where she plays a role very close to Letty in this film. She could almost be her as an old woman. Sjöström went back to Sweden, where he became a film professor. One of his students was Ingmar Bergman, who cast him as the old man in Wild Strawberries, which some of you may have seen. So there's a lot of history in this film. I think it's a pretty remarkable movie. I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be here afterwards if anyone has any questions. Thank you.